Welcome to EdTech Mondays, a platform to engage Uganda's EdTech community on the challenges and solutions to deploying technology that guarantees continuity of learners and learning outcomes. Now, after the MasterCard Foundation's Ministerial Forum organized by the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning, it emerged that harnessing the power of technology to create resilient education systems was top on the agenda for learning. And for the month of June, we take on this discussion with innovators and teachers in Uganda's EdTech space. But first, let's listen to what happened at that ministerial summit.
So if you could tell us some of the strategies or plans your ministry has put in place to create a more resilient education system so that, in the future we get less caught out by these things and, learning can continue.
In 2019, we launched the new program policy for teacher development, and the requirement is that every teacher should have a bare minimum of a bachelor's degree, but also they should engage in continuous professional development. And every 3 years, we hope that we shall be certifying the teachers again. So in every 3 years, you should have done a continuous professional development course of some sort. Look at building databases for the service providers, for the teachers trained, following up the teachers trained, seeing the change that they're doing, and using those same teachers to mentor and support other teachers. And this is where we feel greatly that technology needs to play a part. Otherwise, you will not be able to achieve on that. And we have said that technologies or ICTs should be mainstreamed in all the subjects. But where are the case studies? The history teacher, the physics teacher, the mathematics teacher, the English teacher wants to know, yes, you talk about use of technology, but where is that super teacher? Who is using it in my subject? Because one of the key things that has been missing is we talk about use of technology in our subjects, but we don't have references of that particular teacher. Maybe who can speak to this group of teachers. So I'm also hoping that subject panels can be built across the region. We dream that one day we will have a mathematics lesson running across Africa, given by that one teacher, but supported by so many teachers who have come together, planned that lesson, so that we all learn together and offer the same education.
Thank you so much for staying with us. I'll now allow my panel to introduce themselves. I'll start with you, Kavagaya, as we come this side. Please introduce yourselves to our audiences.
My name is Estela Kavagaya, Mama Children. I'm the founder and director of Mama Children's Village. I'm so passionate about children's development. If it comes to education, it comes to general learning, that's where my focus is.
Thank you so much, Raymond. My name is Cohen Mugisha. I am a passionate teacher of English language and literature in English, but I also do debate and speech coaching, and I'm very passionate about arts. I am a pro-young person, people, and I think today I am very much privileged to be hosted here, and EdTech is my thing. Glad to be here.
Wow, a pro-young person, people. Interesting. Hi, my name is Immaculate Nakanjako Maira. I am a child life specialist, or you could call me a child growth and development specialist. I work with the Early Years Foundation of Uganda, where we advocate for early childhood development, for quality early childhood development, learning and care for the children in Uganda.
I want to start with you. It's becoming important in the century that we're in for children to interface with technology at a really early age, for entertainment, but also for learning outcomes. In your work with children, what have you seen as the intersection between technology and education?
So I'll start by saying the children that I work with are mostly from advantaged communities where they will have access to technology, where they will interface with technology. So if I go with that small sample size, I'll say, oh, there has been a big intersection, and I have seen how it has benefited these children. However, when I look at it from from the view of a practitioner of early childhood development in Uganda, in our country, I'll say it is non-existent. There has been no interaction of technology for Ugandan children anywhere. So people that watch TV will be like, yeah, my son currently is holding a tab. They're interacting with technology. Very good. Your son is among the 0.001% of Ugandan children that are interacting with technology. Yes.
Cohens, this is a really important point she raises about young children not interfacing with technology. One thing I remember most prominently during the lockdowns was that many teachers had to find ways of reaching their children and ways that really only technology could deliver. What did teachers learn during the COVID-19 lockdown about what technology can do to help education?
Thank you, Raymond. One, I really think that teachers had lessons to learn. One of them was that we cannot keep rigid, and especially to issues to do with technology and digitalization. And in that aspect, I think one really had to learn, for example, how to use a computer or your phone to create content if you really need to make sure that there is continuity in learning. That was one of the things. But two, we are also compelled so much to learn, for example, how to use video conferencing tools to conduct live sessions with learners, and that was a big stake for teachers. But also, in that regard, I think it was also important that even when those that do not have gadgets, they are passionate, they would reach out to friends. Be like, I have my content, can you help me maybe from some PowerPoint presentation, and you send it to the kids via WhatsApp. And I think that was also a limited number. While we were doing that, there is a very huge number of Ugandan students and children who did not have access. But to teachers, it was a big challenge, unless there is that person who is like, okay, I'm not willing to move from this space. Yes.
The mindset of teachers, this is an important point that he raises. Did the mindset of teachers change once the lockdown happened? From the blackboard to now using gadgets, using technology, was there that mindset change? And if it wasn't there, what should have been done for that mindset change to happen?
When it comes to teachers change when the lockdown came, first and foremost, it hit everyone abruptly. It just came like a big boom. Now, for the few teachers who are naturally, or who naturally have that skill of problem solving, critical thinking, those ones easily changed and adapted to the change that came with it. Majority were left behind. So were their students. Because most teachers are like, this is how it is, this is how it should be done, as it was in the beginning, up to the end, forever. So many teachers, majority who were a little bit older, did not adapt and failed, and I promise you, they will never catch up. Because they felt, I have to provide my work, I have to do it ABCD, I have to teach. Not thinking that if I send out the notes, if I send out using the technology that is available, the children can still get the message, can still get the knowledge. Because they're used to spoon feeding, I would say, write this right here, doing it for the kids, not even giving the children an opportunity. Because when technology came in the lockdown, that means you're empowering the child as well. The teachers failed to empower themselves with a new skill, equip themselves with a new skill, so they could not pass on what they don't have.
I want to come to you. The rigidity that she speaks about, it's not just teachers that are rigid, but also our curriculum is really rigid. So even if you wanted to innovate, some things would have to change. What have you experienced, and what can you now say, from this experience we've learned how to handle this curriculum differently? How has that experience shaped the way you view the curriculum now?
You know, in speaking, I was burning, as burning, because I truly understand the rigidity she was talking about. But also, I understand why the teachers were rigid. We have had, our Education Act has been around for close to 35 years. yeah, close to 35 years. It was declared in 1900. And so these teachers do not know anything else. And the system has put them in a place to teach how they teach. So the way the curriculum is built, the way the system is built, would not enable them to adapt even if a pandemic has come and now people are teaching digitally. That is very good for other countries that had introduced digital classrooms up until the pandemic hit. That when the pandemic hit, now they were escalating what they had already introduced. For us, our teachers had never seen this. I mean, most of our teachers didn't even own smartphones, and those that did owned their smartphones for a few functions like WhatsApp and maybe accessing their email and making calls and receiving calls. So when you tell me what have we learned, how can we handle the curriculum better? From my perspective, I have learned that it's actually very possible for children to learn, for students to acquire knowledge from home or wherever they are in a digital setting. And so adaptation of ICT in schools is quite possible. And so I am currently in a place of, okay, we have seen this works, this is possible. What is the next step? I think that is a question you've asked as well. What is the next step? And I am in a place where I'm currently telling fellow educators and people that work with children, that work in schools and with children, that now we need to ask the government to make it possible for us to adapt to ICT in our classrooms. Because we can only want so much. I have been told so many times, stop saying government etuyambe, but we can only do so much if government tetuyamba, even if they don't give us the resources. But if they show the will for the need for adaptation of ICT in schools and in classrooms, then it will be possible. So I think right now we are in a place of saying, how can we collaborate with government and what systems can we put in place? How can we train the teachers? How can we help the students adapt? Yeah, I think we have gotten to the how phase, yes.
Collins, we will speak about the government, I think, in the second part. I still want to focus now on the second stakeholder, who is the parent. It could be fancy to use technology to deliver education, but what has been the mindset of the parents? I can speak for some of the parents who just question, why should I pay the same school fees as before when my child used to come to your school, feed and the like? What has been the mindset of parents throughout this remote learning, using technology to teach children?
Yeah, thank you. About parents' mindset and motivation, I would rate it to be below average, if not really too low. Because one, what would motivate them in the first place would be, do they have the resources? Do they have the gadgets? For example, if you say we are sending work via WhatsApp, does a parent have the gadget? And then number two, still, they would, even when they would like it, you find that the students themselves, being outside the school environment itself is a little bit discouraging. Not necessarily because they are too much preoccupied, but they feel without a teacher here, without that person-to-person interaction, it becomes a little difficult. So I think to the parents, we really have issues, and parents largely during that time would say, even when they learn, they are worried about the costs. I need to buy 1 GB of data for my kid too. That's almost 5,000 at a time when parents were not working. So I think only a few parents, especially those that have children in advantaged schools, where even they pay, for example, technology fee, and maybe schools have a kind of facilitation. That challenge, comes because most of the content that has been online, you have to use data to access it. We have not had, a structure where we have, for example, free online resources. So, for example, at advanced stages, it is difficult. But even for young kids, the parents, they still have a headache to censor. I have a gadget, but still I know if this kid goes on, he will start gaming. They have the phone, but there is WhatsApp. The children were in WhatsApp groups. I personally have a mentorship program that I run, but it would be difficult to get parents that really trust their children with the gadgets. They have too much worries. They are very insecure. And I think that at a point would be like, okay, me, I can only allow my daughter to have a phone for 1 hour. Yet this daughter has maybe, for example, a discussion at a time past maybe 4 p.m. And then remember, I also have to do some housework at home. So I think averagely the parents' attitude, there are just a few. We need to do a lot to encourage them. Also to try to know some of these things. How are phones used? How best can they censor their children, making sure that they do not divert from that real cause. But for that person who does not have a phone, still it will be difficult. They will keep hearing about it unless government says, okay, we want still to go on to introduce a technology that, for example, we can use robocalls. It was in one of the debates, online debates that we had. We're talking about what expedient measures that can be put in place to make sure what children missed during the lockdown can be compensated. And kids were like, we suggest robocalls. I had never heard about robocalls. And it's like, when you make a phone call, you dial some USSD code, and then they guide you for mathematics, +1, physics, +2, for this topic, +4. And then such steps maybe could help parents know, okay, even if I don't have money, I could still have my child continue learning.
Hold on to your thought. Let's take a very short break, but when we get back, we continue this discussion on how technology and learning can help our young learners continue with education and also get the best out of their learning outcomes. Thank you so much for staying with us on EdTech Mondays. We've just been discussing how to keep learners' attention during this pandemic, particularly when they have access to technology. But now I want us to accelerate this conversation and right to where, Imi, the point you started, this is where I want us to go. The variances in learners. There is the 1% that you speak of who have access to technology, and there's the 99% for whom access to technology is really out of reach. How do we solve this problem where equality and equity in learning is encouraged?
How do we solve this problem?
Yeah, but is it even a problem? Have you seen the problem
Yes.
in the variance of learners?
I have seen the problem in the variance of learners. And I have seen that when learners come from a certain region and then into Kampala or into urban schools, there is a lot that they are unable to do. Even their esteem alone makes it impossible for them to fit into the classroom. And I've always thought how we solve this problem is through the quality of teachers we produce. If learners within Uganda, all the way from that part of the map that is like this, the smaller part of the map, if learners from Uganda, from that part of the map, from the one end to the other end of Uganda, were all accessing quality teachers, then we would never have a problem with the quality of learning. So for me, it starts with how teachers are being trained. We have so many teaching institutions in our country. We have so many teacher training programs, both government and private. And I wish there was a way, or I hope there is ever going to be a way that government brings all these people on the same table and plans to have the same quality of teacher. In that way, we will be able to solve, or to at least move miles on the problem of equity in learning. Yeah.
Collins, I mean, it suggests that, you know, the learning problems could be different far away, but 5 kilometers from here, you'd meet a slum like Chikubamuto where, you know, the challenges of accessing technology are just as the same as if you were up country. This problem, have you found ways that it can be solved? Do you know of ways that it can be solved? Are there partnerships that can be exploited?
Yeah, thank you. Well, it is true. Just to start off with some statistics, the Teacher Training Education Project with Enable in Uganda and Ministry of Education did some kind of study on readiness to distance learning. And this was largely in national teachers' colleges in Uganda. And from the study, it was revealed that 47% of the students, the teachers that Immaculate has been talking about, 47% could not access distance learning materials. Why? Because they lack access to gadgets. But the other 26% was like, okay, it is either no data or limited data. These are people who are tertiary institutions. They pay some amount of money. So from that kind of perspective, you realize that, one, we still have these challenges existing, but what, for example, did these national teachers' colleges do? Like in Botswana and Namibia during COVID-19, they thought, okay, we cannot do it alone, but we can only get together, get the teachers all together from different institutions and share resources. Resources are limited. We know there is a school A that has a computer and does not have internet. There is school B that has a very competent teacher who can help, support their friends to know how to use technology and do that. So I think one of the things that we really need to look up to is to create, a good support system that can encourage sharing resources. This can range from human resource, but even equipment. But also, secondly, I think for us to be able to harness, there are a few people. You go to a staff room and you find there are 2 people that are technologically illiterate. So how about schools utilize those, or even government, or maybe, for example, we have a neighbor in Uganda, we have the Innovation Village, create hubs. And then say in holidays, we say we are picking 1 teacher from each school in this kind of locality, take them to that hub, train them on a specific aspect, okay? There are online courses that people can do. I remember while we were doing this, I undertook a course of technology enhanced learning, so that teachers are exposed to some tools, simple tools that we can use, that with my mobile phone, I can download Canva and then create content with pictures, create graphics, okay? So that when I go to my literature class, I don't need to struggle so much to teach children about tone and mood.
How do we solve the problem of learners, the 1% and the 99%? How do we bridge that gap?
The 1% and the 99%, the pain, it's not a problem. We call it the pain of the 99%. Like Cohen has elaborated, the majority of our teachers are I would say they are also equally underprivileged. They cannot access the phones, they cannot access the technology available. Even the schools, you can find a whole school in my village, which here Immaculate was saying in the other corner, the whole village does not even have a computer. If, like Cohen has discussed, he says, we use the resources, we share the resources with those that don't have. If an institution had 10, 15 computers with 2 teachers, you share the 2 computers within a community. You can create a center within that underprivileged community. It may not help them 100%, but there is a portion it will help. So it will start changing. Even if you set it, I'm taking an example of the other corner of the country, that if the community doesn't really have any technology, per se, like he said, and we take Cohen into that community and he engages 2 teachers, it will spread downwards. We can never entirely change the 1%, or it will take us some good time to change the 1% to even a 50. But at least the 1% can become a 4. It can become a 10. That is where we need resources. If even the digital companies themselves, the MTN companies themselves, if a company like that said, okay, we are going to help implement change learning in Kapchora, in my village, they can put a mini center, a hub, where the teachers there can come and learn. Then it becomes easier to teach the incoming teachers. So it becomes a learning process. Because for us who are old, it's hard to change. So since it's becoming everyone who comes on board learns, it becomes easier to spread further. But if we are not helped, if there is no collaboration, if there is no one supporting that, even government will never support.
All right. I now want to come to you, Imi, and this is a final question as we try and wrap up. It's very likely that we can solve the technology challenge and not the content challenge. And then we'll have technology, but with content that's still post-dated and outdated. So what are those initiatives that are currently being done in the education sector to make content more appealing towards technological gadgets and devices, and to make that appealing to learners?
I usually say to people that say, we have a post-dated curriculum and content. I said, no. We have some of the best curriculums in the world taught in the worst way. And I stand by that every day because, again, I'm also a curriculum specialist in one of my lives. And I have found that Uganda's primary school curriculum is one of the best curriculums in the world, taught in a very bad way. Uganda's secondary school curriculum had problems, and it had problems in terms of content, and it was also being taught in a very bad way. But the government has come out and improved the content. The lower secondary school curriculum was improved, and when implementation was beginning in 2020, sadly, the lockdown came, and the implementation didn't continue how it was intended to continue, how it was intended to have gone on. However, even when the implementation was done for just a short while, there was a realization that teachers were not prepared to deliver the curriculum. And so I'll continue to say that the problem for me, and I'm stuck there, the problem for me is not the content. The problem is who is delivering the content and who is translating this content for the learners. So for me, that is why I'm stuck, and that is why I'm going to remain, even as we end this show. The people that are delivering the content, they've been handed a good thing that they don't know what to do with. So we have good content, but we don't have people that know how to translate this content for learners, that know how to understand the learners and how to deliver this content for the learners. So the risk is with the people that are delivering the content.
So how do we solve this content problem so that if the technology ever comes right for their 100%, they find it in such a way that it's a smooth learning experience?
Thank you. Starting with that very one, I really think that things to do with content, it may be a complex concept, but using digital means as a teacher who is aware would make some of these concepts simpler. Just using the resources available.
Skawaga, your concluding remarks on this?
They've spoken about the teacher. The teacher is very instrumental in, actually is a pivot for turning, harnessing technology in this. But I also agree with Immaculate. These people who pass on the information, our teachers, we now have to work on this person. I believe that I've met so many teachers, and I believe some of them now, it's the person you have to work on. Work on how? Before you as you bring in the technology, understand this person's ability, what other skills do they have, so that they can adapt. If naturally I cannot solve a problem, naturally I cannot think out of the box. If you give me your technology, I will not think with that technology. I'll still just look at it and put it back in the box, and you find it where you. So these people there is need to invest in other skills.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to our panelists today. You've been watching EdTech Mondays. Of course, EdTech Mondays is an initiative of the Innovation Village in partnership with the MasterCard Foundation that runs once a month on UBC and on NTV Uganda. We'll be back next month again speaking about education and technology, but this particular episode we've been speaking about how to harness technology for education for better learning outcomes for learners. Have yourselves a good day.